So, to put this in perspective, it always helps to know what's the end game, what are we working towards, what's expected of me before we even start a task. So, because I will be gone next Monday and Tuesday, some of you will be gone, who knows what days, maybe those same ones. The calendar is 2 weeks out. You can see exactly what we're doing, links to everything. If you haven't paid attention or looked at that, today you're going to get your instructions. In our language, you're going to get hired by some organization. Some of them are governments. The board doesn't tell you who. No one gets to know but you. Some of them are governments. Some of them are international organizations. Some of them are very, very biased. But all of them have a concern with House Resolution 106. And that can be abbreviated as HR 106. Okay, like if I have your screen and you can see, this is the instructions that your audience is going to get. So everybody's first question is, who's our audience? I ultimately cannot control who our audience is. Here's what I do. I send out an email to every teacher in our school, all of our principals, and say, hey, if you want to bring your kids to second period next Wednesday, that's 1 week from now, we're going to do this House Resolution 106 simulation. You're invited to be a guest. Whoever shows up, shows up. I'll show you some pictures of what the room has looked like in past years. We've had anywhere from 10 guests to 64 guests. Now, here's what's really awesome. Because of living in the year 2016 and having YouTube and swivels and laptops and stuff, potentially, let's say 5 kids show up for our audience, we would still do it. And they ultimately get to vote on this resolution, yes or no. But we can send this to anybody. We can put it in some hashtags and Twitters that history teachers use that could show it to their classes or watch it themselves. I have friends who teach history in other states that can say, here's a link to a second period YouTube playlist. Watch each presentation and then vote on this online survey. So potentially your audience is unlimited. I'll try and get at least 30 people to vote. That's what I aim for. But we might have 50 kids come in our class. We might have 10. I have no idea. That'll be next Wednesday, a week from today. Here's the instructions that they get when they walk in. Thank you for participating. Your presence and feedback are invaluable to our students. Your task is really simple. At the end of this, when you groups are done, there's 6 of you, you vote yes or no on this resolution, just like our Congress people do. Now, that's a link, so that we're all clear on what House Resolution 106 says. Here it is. The House of Representatives calls upon the President to ensure that the foreign policy of the United States reflects appropriate understanding and sensitivity concerning issues related to human rights, ethnic cleansing, and genocide documented in the United States record relating to the Armenian genocide and the consequences of the failure to realize a just resolution, and calls upon the President, in the President's annual message commemorating the Armenian genocide, issued on or about April 24th. Why is April 24th a relevant date for us?
Because it's a remembrance of the Armenian genocide.
And is that less than 3 weeks away? Yes, sir. To accurately characterize the systematic and deliberate annihilations of 1.5 million Armenians as genocide, and to recall the proud history of the United States intervention in opposition to the Armenian genocide. There's the genocide counter if you lost track. It says genocide 5 times, referring to specifically the Armenian genocide. Has our government done something like this yet? Has our president, any president, ever done something like this yet?
No.
No. So here's the simulation. Your audience gets to pick. Do you want to vote yes and do that? Basically point at those events and say that was genocide. Or, for whatever reason, do you think that's a bad idea and vote no? They get to pick. Now, your job is to persuade them to vote yes or no based on whoever's paying you this week. You're not actually going to get paid. Okay? So, what happens is, they sit here and watch your groups present, and let's say this group comes up and their group name is team awesome, and they put your 3 names, and they just say, okay, they really want us to vote yes on this resolution and call it genocide. Here's some great points they made. Here's some that I totally did not buy at all. Overall, I think they did like an 8 out of 10, pretty well. And this turns into your rubric, okay? When they leave, they turn this in and they vote. Do you want to say genocide 5 times and vote yes or no? What groups, what individuals did a good job, etc. Okay? And then what's cool is we might get, I don't know, 20 to 30 of those. Next Friday, what we'll do after the simulation day, we come in next Friday, and we're just going to sit in one big circle, and we're going to pass around all of those evaluations and read what they said about you and your group. And then I tally the votes at the end, and we figure out who won. Okay? So that's like the end game. That's what we're aiming for. So what do we have to do to get there? How do we convince them of this? Before I even tell you your topic, let me show you a good example. Okay? I have a bunch of, if you see this folder right here, pictures and videos from past classes. Now, I didn't have a swivel and fancy stuff. I had my phone. Like 2 phones ago, so not even the best picture. If these don't show up on your screen, that's okay. You can look at mine. You get 10 minutes. And the only rule is you cannot physically harm someone and you cannot pay them with United States dollars. Otherwise, you can do anything you want with your 10 minutes to get them to vote yes or no on this resolution, whatever your instructions tell you later today. So, for example, here's Matt Kelly and Katie Hesseltine. So this would have been 3 years ago. They were the first class that did this. Here's the title of their slide, The Bloodthirsty Turks. Think for a second. Are they trying to get their audience to vote yes on this resolution or no, based on that slide title? Think for a second.
Yes.
Probably yes.
Definitely yes. Bloodthirsty Turks means then it's a genocide. So vote yes. Okay? And there's some of these, and this is old school. I used to have a marker board where I put that stuff up. I feel like a caveman. Okay? This one is Russell Kenny and Sam Jones, and you can barely see, but it says, relationship with Turkey will suffer.
No.
Do you think they're trying to get the audience to vote yes or no on this resolution? No, because they're saying if you vote yes, Turkey's going to be mad at us, and our relationship's going to suffer. I want to show you some. So like that's what they were looking at when they were presenting. If we move all the furniture and stuff out of the room and stack it up, we can fill it up with kids. Like, we would have to get probably 60 or 70 people to show up before we ran out of room. Okay, so most classes, this was a good one. Haven Jessen made an analogy about Pinedale's football team and our football team to persuade his audience. But that's like what you'll be looking at, the average year. 20 to 30 kids who come in here and 1 or 2 teachers and maybe a principal. Now, no matter who shows up, we can send it out on Twitter and it'll be on a YouTube playlist like most things we do in here. Okay? You get 10 minutes. Here's what most people do. Some kind of a presentation, something multimedia based, and something engaging that makes you pay attention. The best part about this is your audience is going to be peers, 9th through 12th grade Big Piney High School students. They are wired just like you. So when you design your presentation, you should say, if I'm an audience member, what would I want to see? How would I want it presented? How would I persuade a 15-year-old to vote yes or no on this? You should be able to relate to them. Okay, I have some videos, but I won't show those. Now, there have been awesome presentations that used very little multimedia. I've had a student who basically went out and made a video and then like mixed it together in multimedia class. Some of them have had you play a game or do some kind of activity that taught you a lesson or had you look at evidence, like pictures, mass graves, primary sources, etc. Okay? Some were funny. Did I show you guys that salesman video, the door-to-door salesman?
Oh, yes.
You showed it to you guys
In history class.
You didn't show this.
Okay, you're all looking at me weird. I'll show it to you after our break. Some people, like Haven Jessen's a good example. If you didn't know him, he was really funny. He was persuasive because he told funny analogies and made people laugh. Basically, make your audience like you. That's one way to be persuasive. Some people are cold, hard facts. Look at these pictures and the stuff that like tears at your heartstrings. That can be persuasive. Some people pretty much admitted, hey, when you go to vote, we're not that persuasive, but I'm going to pass around a bag of Oreos and you can take as many as you want. Just promise to vote no. Which really is not a good strategy. But if you want to, the only two limits are you cannot threaten them or harm them with physical violence, and you cannot give them United States dollars as a bribe. Otherwise, anything you want to do for 10 minutes, you can do. Okay? Now, I'm going to let your screen go. And I'm going to show you one example. You guys have seen PowerPoints and Google Slides throughout most of your academic career. I don't need to show you those. How many of you have made, on your own, created a Prezi? Like 3 of us. Have any of you done a remote Prezi? Like when you presented it, it was you land schooled their screen type of thing? Oh, don't you want to have the power of land school? Apparently it's haunting some of you. That wasn't me. Whoever, Shawnee. Okay, let me show you an example. So a past student made a Prezi. This is Donovan Tatum's. And here's one of the problems that you'll see, and you can probably relate to this. You're up here giving a presentation, and Johnny's in the back either playing his Mario Chrome extension, or has bad eyesight or something and is not watching your screen or can't see. If it's a PowerPoint or Google slide, you just click through it. Prezis, some of you have done these, but here's a cool feature of this. You can present remotely. So say your Prezi's done, and it's Wednesday, and your audience is here. You can take this and send it to people. So I'll send this to you guys, and you'll get this in your email. Would someone please try it on their phone? Whoever has their email on their phone, try doing this on your phone. Period 2 world history. I'm just going to send you a link. This is one of those things that you Prezi guys and ladies, if you haven't done this, this is awesome. If we could get Google Slides to do this, I would be complete. I tried to send it. Period 2 world history. You might have to hit F5 a couple of times to get it to show up. What can I help you gentlemen with?
I was an after question as our junior led meeting after school.
As long as you're building that up. What do you do?
The more kind of time under thought of stuff I chose.
So how am I supposed to help with that? Why don't I have it?
Get the grades.
Why would I share it with you? I have some chicken parmesan. I would afraid not to eat it. I don't want I don't want to. You just begging every food.
Yeah, we're like. Yeah.
Is this showing up, this email? I know the internet likes to have hiccups right when we're trying to use it. You need an app? Can you try it for me?
Sure.
I've never tried it with a mobile device, but I'm sure there's a way to make it work. You might have to hit, if you don't know where the refresh button is, you should also be able to hit F5 on your keyboard, and it just refreshes the page so you don't wear out your clicker.
You have to have Prezi for Android.
On your phone? Okay, try it on your laptop then. Tim's going to try it on his phone for sure. What's yours saying? Yeah, so it's telling you need an app. If you want to try it, you can. He's going to try it and see. Trust me, you'll think this is cool when you get the link. When you get it, what you should see is like a loading wheel that says Prezi, a little blue circle. Apparently the internet hates us right now, but that's okay.
Oh, wait.
It's progress. It should say Prezi test.
I heard that. Not mainly either.
I don't want jelly beans. I don't need diabetes. You have diabetes. I don't do favors for free. Come on. Each of my kids will be persuasive speakers. I'm going to give away
Sorrows of war.
Can you do 500? If you can, so you're. You can.
Come on, fish, get up.
Yeah.
You must not be that hungry.
Come on,
then.
fish. Come on.
Keep your feet off the floor, Teddy. You're cheating.
No, I'm not. I'm helping you.
I know, that's cheating.
Come on, fish. Woo! One more. Come on. Come on, get up. Get up. Shut up. You don't do it either, yeah? Make yourself fun.
Has anybody's loaded and your screen looks like mine? Or is it
Mine's just sitting here like this.
the loading wheel thing? Did it,
Mine loaded.
have you got the link yet? Oh,
Thank you.
the internet gods are pleased with you today. Okay. Did you even like open an email or anything?
No, it's been like this ever since.
When I grabbed your screen? Because I let your screen go back.
It never went back.
Interesting. Okay. I don't want to waste your time, but if the internet's not working, then obviously this isn't going to work. If I have your screen, you can vouch for me. Say you made a Prezi, which is not much harder than making a Google Slides or a PowerPoint. The difference really is that instead of linear slides, so when you make one of those presentations, you know the view. On the side, it's like slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, and you can do transitions and funky stuff. But what you can do with Prezi, I'll just start the presentation and it'll make you follow my screen, people who are in. This is from Donovan. He put a map of the world, and you can see like there's these slides down here. What country is that?
Armenian.
Armenia. See how this is Turkey? That's Armenian. He's got arrows. If the internet were working, but you two can vouch for me, what this does is, as I sit here and present, what's your screen do? Well, look at their screen if you're by them. It's kind of like you're plugged in to my presentation. So let's say someone had a question like, can you go back? I just clicked back. What'd your screen do? It follows. Now, Tim's going to test it out on his phone, because some people might come in here without a laptop. When he gets that going, we'll play with it. I'm sure it'll do the same thing on your phone. Okay? So his, he kind of has like going over to the US and says, how would you feel if someone in your own country betrayed you and fought against your government? Like that was treason and you want to bring them to justice. But notice how when that slide transitions, it goes over to the US because he's saying, how would you feel as an American? And then after this slide, it zooms back over to Turkey and says, here's what Armenians were really doing during World War I. And I know most of you can't see my screen, but these are Armenian volunteer regiments who joined the Russians and fought against the Ottomans in World War I. And then he has the slide bump over to Armenia like this and says, here's a good example. That word genocide that we said you got to fit the definition, it did not exist in any language until 1944. Well, that's 20 years after these events allegedly happened. How can you call something genocide if the word genocide didn't exist when those events happened? Now, you can see at the end, what's he going to say for you, the audience, to vote yes or no? He's going to say vote no, right? Like the Armenians betrayed the Turks. you would have wanted to punish them too if they betrayed your country, and the word genocide didn't even exist. Okay? And basically says it's all just people picking on Turkey and bullying them. And says, according to Stanford University, here's what they say. And then at the end, he's got his works cited page for all of his pictures and his sources. Now, the best part about that, you could do a presentation on anything. I don't know of another program that makes you guys follow my screen just by giving them a link. So what you can do, one of my favorite extensions up here, you know how you sometimes you get the huge long URLs that are 500 characters long? You can get Google URL shortener, see how short that is right here? And just copy that. You could write that on the board, so if your audience was sitting here with a phone or a laptop, you say type in these 7 to 9 characters, and as soon as they get in, it'll follow your screen. Now, with PowerPoint or Google Slides, does anyone know a way to make it follow your screen? Where the audience gets a link? I don't, and I'm not an expert on presentation software because I never use it when I teach. I think I'm the only one in the world that doesn't. I'm not good at PowerPoint. But if there's another program or app besides Prezi, you could show it to me and I'd be interested. But that's one of my favorite things is you can grab their screen when the internet works. Because the internet's not loading?
Yeah, it's now 30 minutes for 1%.
On the school's Wi-Fi?
Yes.
That sounds about right. Okay, let me show you another one. I won't try and share your screen. This one did not do some cool kind of map and layout and transitions like Donovan did. This is Stephanie Bike, and I don't remember who was in her group. She has like clouds and light blue, and she told her audience that her team name was The Watch. Okay, if you didn't see Donovan's, it was called Historians for a Better Tomorrow. That's a total BS name. He just made that up. Because if you knew who he really worked for, you'd laugh and go, he's totally biased. I'm not going to believe anything this group says. So he made up a name for his group rather than tell the audience who he really worked for. Now, Stephanie did the same thing, and hers is more like fluffy and nice, The Watch. And the point of her group, as she would have explained it, is to like be the watchdogs of the world for genocide. Like, we look for it, examine it, and make sure people know what's happening. So what she did is she just made 4 circles, and it's very linear. That part of her presentation wasn't anything, you know, awesome, but what she did really well, come on.
UNC ads, you have to go. The front.
Yeah, and what she told her audience, she goes, hey everybody, Google image search the Armenian Genocide audience, because most of your audience is never going to have heard of this. Just look at what comes up. Okay, so pretend you're in the audience and I'm presenting. Google image search Armenian Genocide. Now, if it doesn't work, but we'll try. I guarantee you see pictures of crucified Armenians if you haven't already seen those. That one always pops up. You want to bet me, Belle?
No, I don't.
Okay, smart bet.
I'm not comfortable with that.
And who knows if they're all...
Whatever.
Right there at the top left, it's got an option for crucifixion.
You see some maps, some... Looks like a little death march in the desert over here. That famous picture of the Armenian mother carrying her baby. That's a German. I don't know why that pops up.
It's a German with a rifle.
I can tell by his pants that he's a German. So she basically said, hey everybody, do this. Are you engaged right now going, whoa, what is this stuff? Especially if you've never heard of the Armenian Genocide? I thought that was super smart. If yours isn't working, you can imagine, but it looks like most of yours are. Then here's what she said. Take the population of Big Piney, Marbleton, and LaBarge. Multiply that by 677. And then line them up and shoot them. That's how many people died in the Armenian Genocide. I thought that was a good way of getting you to visualize the gravity. Kind of like we said, the 6 million paper clips or the 90% of the population of Wyoming. She said 677 times the amount of people in Big Piney, Marbleton, and LaBarge. Now, her slide, it just transitions to pictures. But what's cool is she just plugged these in, and you can just sit here and click on them. Like here's some Armenian priests who are standing in front of a pile of bones. And you could pick, or let's say,
Are those two girls Armenian in the back of that one picture?
1 second, I'll click on it. Here's a bunch of Armenian kids posing with, I'm guessing that's like an American after the war. And I doubt any of them have parents left at this point. Click back here. Which one, Fluid?
The one to the left of
This?
that. Yeah,
No, those are little kids. So if you didn't know, when you get really seriously malnourished, what does your stomach do?
Oh, you're
It swells up and it looks like you have like a beer gut, I guess, for lack of a better term. A really good historical example of that is in northeastern Montana. There's an Indian tribe today that's called the Gros Ventre. The French named them, Gros Ventre. Does anyone know what Gros Ventre means in French?
Is it like hungry or big or something?
Big belly. Well, they showed up, and the Gros Ventre Indians, a lot of them had big bellies. Like, man, these guys are all fat and lazy. Well, really, they were starving when they met them. And through this weird coincidence of history, that name stuck. They're called the big bellies in French even today. Because your stomach swells up when you're malnourished. But that's cool because you could plug in pictures and click on them in any order you want. Now, simple transition. She plugged in a YouTube video. I'm only going to show you a little piece of this, but I don't know where she found this, but it's pretty dang good. Should play.
It was the middle of the night when the Turkish gendarmes came to gather the Armenian men from my village. I remember my father trying to keep a brave smile as he kissed me and said he would be back soon. After that, they rounded up the children and forced us to start marching.
As I was separated from my mother and sister by an SS officer.
See what the video's doing?
It's like those sad puppy dog videos that like go like the shelter, like when they're in whatever.
Only way worse. I hate those commercials, and I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Did you see what it transitioned from and to?
Armenian.
Tim can't go a day in America without hearing about it. The Armenian kid's telling the story, and then it seamlessly integrates into the Jewish kid story from 1941. And then if the video played on, because it's only like a minute long, it transitions to this kid who like picks up where the German kid left off in 1941 and talks about in Darfur, which is in the Sudan, in 2010, what happened to him and his little brother. It's really depressing because it's little kids talking about genocide. Well, her angle, right, she's trying to persuade her audience to vote, is like the sad, in-your-face, just like Destiny said, those animal shelter commercials that are like, all these dogs will die if you don't give us money. And you're a piece of crap of a human being if you let them die. So give us money. That definitely works. Somebody must be calling in, giving them money because they keep showing the same commercials over and over again. That's kind of what she did, right? So her presentation was not this cool multimedia, really creative thing. It was really effective at manipulating your emotions, and she did a really good job of integrating the pictures and the video into there. Now, what's cool, again, if the internet were working, you could make them follow your screen. Okay? Now, I only show you that to give you some examples. If you do not want to do Prezi as a group, or if none of you have ever done it and you don't feel like figuring it out, then don't do it. I am not an expert at Prezi. I'm not an expert at any of these. Doing it as a group might be a little bit of an experiment. Here's my recommendation. If you are a PowerPoint disciple, I respect your choice, but like driving a Dodge, I disagree with that choice. It's not very good for working in groups, especially with 4 or 5 people. Okay? PowerPoint's powerful. I'll give you that. It's not built to collaborate, though. Google Slides is not quite as powerful and fancy. Is it really easy to collaborate with? It's like Google Docs where you can all type at the same time. It's really easy to collaborate with. I would encourage you to consider doing Google Slides over PowerPoint, but I will not decide for you and I won't veto your decision. Okay? Do you have to do some kind of presentation software? No. Some people do handouts. Some people do videos. Some do a little activity or play a game. You guys know sometimes in class we'll have like stations where you move from this source to that source. You could do something like that. It makes no difference to me. Here's your job. You get 10 minutes without threatening to or physically harming your audience or bribing them in US dollars. Get them to vote how your employer wants them to vote. Now what I'm going to do is come around with the QR codes. One person have a QR scanner out in your little group. And I'll point it to you and say, scan this. While you're waiting, here's our plan for today. For you guys to come up with a very rough outline of what are we going to do with our 10 minutes, what are you good at, what do you like, what do you think is effective, and say, okay, let's do a Google Slides or a Prezi, let's plug in a little YouTube video, let's show some in-your-face pictures, whatever. As I come around and share those, you guys talk about, as a group, how do we want to attack this? Before you leave today, you're going to give me a rough outline and say, with our 10 minutes, here's what we think we're going to do. That can change. It doesn't have to be really vivid and detailed, just planned out. Okay? And then some of you are going to start finding sources, reading stuff, and within your group, you're going to have your own job. Okay? So,